So hey everyone, welcome to Small Farm Living. My name's Julie, and today I am going to show you the difference in planting in an egg carton. We're going to make some seed snails, and we're also going to plant in some regular little pots. Now, first we're going to get some of our seed starting mix going. This is something that I just make from scratch every year because I grow a lot, and I do have a separate video for that, and I will link that down below if you want. I just pre-moisten my soil because it is much easier for water uptake once you get them in the pots and get them going. So I just mix it around like this until you can grab it and then bump it and it just falls right apart. First thing is we're going to take our egg carton, and I am going to take the little flap in the front and the lid off because we're not going to be using those. And now that that's off, we're just going to load some of the soilless mix into the carton. And once I get it in there, I just give it a light little tamp, which it's not super easy to do with the super flexible egg carton, but you just tamp it to remove as much air pockets as possible. And then we're going to put some lettuce in here. Now I have some romaine lettuce and some iceberg lettuce, and the romaine is kind of old, so we'll see how it goes, but that's what the seeds look like. I'm just going to put one in each one of the little cups. If I happen to get more than one in there, I just leave it. I don't bother trying to pick it out. Always label, because no matter how many times you think you're going to remember what's in there, most things look very similar when they first germinate. So we will get the romaine tag in there, the iceberg tag on the other side. Now these like to be covered very lightly, so I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit more of the potting medium on top. Going to lightly tamp it down so it makes contact with the seed. This is my Chapin sprayer. If you've never used one of these before, they're awesome. You just pump it several times to get air pressure built up inside, and then just press down on this little lever and it gives you continuous spray, which I absolutely love. And the link for some of the products that I'm using down below, like these and my tags, are in the description box below. Now I'm going to plant some tomatoes next. These are little 4-inch or little 4-cell pots that I use all of the time. You can see the depth on these. This is also another 4-cell container that I use, but you can see they're bigger. And then we have our 4-inch pot. And then the 4-inch pot is what I sell a lot of my plants in, but if I have items that outgrow the 4-inch pot before I sell them, I will bump them up into a slightly larger pot like this. And tomatoes particularly, because they like lots of room. But to get started, we're going to use the smaller black ones. And I just wanted to show you the depth of the egg carton versus the depth of the little black pot. You actually have quite a bit more room in the little black pot to start with right off the get-go. So I'm just going to scoop some of that soilless mix up, and just like I did with the egg carton, I'm going to tamp it down and get it over there in my tray. And I will just continue doing this until I get a whole tray's worth, because I'm going to be planting a lot of tomatoes today. And first up, I'm going to do some yellow pear tomatoes. And then I'm also going to do just a few of the Super Sweet 100. These two varieties right here are both really prolific, and I find that I don't need a lot and I get a ton of tomatoes. Now Romas, I do sell a lot of Romas and beefsteak, so I'm going to be planting several of those. You can see I already labeled every single one of my container rows, so I know where everything is going to be. And I'm just going to put one seed in each little cell, and again, if more than one drops, no big deal. See that little cutie patootie next to me? That is my daughter's dog. She is going to be in training here pretty soon to be her service dog, so I will be showing more of her in upcoming videos, but she is a sweetheart. So I'm just going to continue putting these in here. Look at her tail. She's so cute. She is the sweetest little girl. Now, I just use the end of my barbecue skewer to lightly tap the seeds down in. You can use your fingers. You also could take some more soilless mix, sprinkle it on top, and tamp it down. Now, the next thing we're going to do is make a seed snail. This is just one of my chicken feed bags. I'm going to cut off a strip, and then I'm going to cut it open so we can lay it flat. And then I'm going to cut the side sections off of this on one side so that I can make smaller ones. And seed snail potting medium, you really want it to be a lot wetter than the other. So you see how this is almost more cakey, and we're going to lay this down onto the bag. about a 1/4 of an inch thick. We're going to work it all the way down to the other side, leaving a little bit of space on each. Now with seed snails, when you start rolling them up, kind of like you would like a wrap, you know that the contents always like to shift. So I just use my hand and kind of gently work the soilless mix back. You will have some mess, and this is what it looks like. And then to secure it, I just like to take a rubber band, and usually I do one on top and one on bottom. This one I just did one on the top. I'm going to plant cilantro in this one, and all I do is take a few seeds, and then I'm just going to take and put them all around the swirl of the seed snail until I get to the center. And then once I do, I'm going to take some more of that potting medium. I'm going to sprinkle it over the top of those seeds so that they're nice and covered. And since this is a nice white bag, I'm just going to write what I planted on the side and the date. And then this is one that I did with, this is the second one that I did, and this is chives. And I think chives looks like mouse pooty when you have it. So I always try never to spill any on my counter or in the greenhouse, or I think there was a mouse in there. But we're just going to put some more potting medium on there. We're going to label this one. We're going to give those a good spray down with our sprayer. And then we're going to take those two and we're going to stick them into my little mini greenhouse inside my greenhouse so that they can germinate, because they're more cold tolerant. And the tomatoes went up into the house. They're on a heat mat because they need a more controlled and warm environment. So we will do a checkup now. It's been a couple of weeks. You can see the iceberg lettuce came up. The romaine did not. I wasn't surprised those seeds were old. The chives are coming up. And the cilantro has not quite yet come up, but you can see the chives just starting there. And the cilantro is yet to be found, but it does come up. So now these are the tomatoes. You can see how they've all germinated, and I did get a couple of seeds in those cell trays. I did prick those out and pot those up, and I have a separate video coming on that, so watch for that if you're interested on transplanting and potting up tomatoes. But now this is yet another week further down the road, and you can see that I have taken some of those little seedlings out of the egg carton and I have put them in some of my black pots. And there was also doubles in some of these, as you can see. Now I'm going to leave some of these in the egg carton, but the ones that I potted up were already pretty root bound in there. The chives are getting nice and tall, and I'm going to open the chives for you and show you what the inside of a seed snail looks like. If you haven't seen one before, you can see how the roots just run down. This one was kind of getting snagged in the bag. Now the seed snails are great in terms that the roots can grow down nice and long. Only thing that I found with these is depending on where you're going to be planting the little seedlings will also determine how deep you're able to dig, you know, if you're in the ground or if you're in a pot. So keep that in mind. But now I'm just going to show you some of my greenhouse plants, how they're looking right now, while I give you my thoughts on all three of the methods. Now the egg cartons I think are great. They're economical, they're reusable, they're postable, and the only thing I think that I don't really care for them is that they dry out really quickly. They can fall apart really quickly, and depending on how long you need your seedling to stay in that container, that can be challenging. They can get root bound really quickly in there. Now the seed snails, they are great for space saving. They do allow for long roots. I don't know, there's something about them. They're all the rave right now, but they're just not my favorite. By far, just the little containers, I love them. I think it has a lot to do with my style of growing, and that is because I grow a lot of things earlier than most people would, because I want them to be a decent enough size when I sell the actual plants. And then I like my plants to be a good size when I get them down in the garden. It just kind of gives me a jump start for the produce that I sell. So overall, all three are really good options. Again, it's just going to really depend on what your use is for them, the budget, and for me, like I had mentioned, I sell a lot of plants, and so it's not really feasible for me to sell something in a seed snail or an egg carton. So this is my preferred method. But hopefully you found this information helpful. I'd love it if you'd subscribe, and I appreciate you hanging out with me. I will see you next time.